seem to shake you, baby. I can't seem to shake you, baby. All I do is dream about you, baby. All I do is dream about you. Remember when you loved me? I loved you and then you left me alone. You know I'd always come back home. We can't pretend that this is the end, baby. All I do is dream about you. I can't seem to shake you, baby. I swear tomorrow that I'll give you up. Save the sorrow for when we wake up. But for tonight it seems I'm tangled up in you, tangled up in you. I can't seem to shake you, baby. I can't seem to shake you, baby. I swear tomorrow that I'll give you up. And I will save the sorrow for when we wake up. But for tonight it seems I'm tangled up in you, tangled up in you, tangled up in you, tangled up
That's right. And we're back on Chicano Tube. I appreciate everyone that's tuning in right now at the 7 o'clock hour. You know what we do on Wednesday night. I got a special guest with me. We're going to go through some formalities. I want to introduce him. And mi amigo David, first off, saludos, buenas noches. How are you?
Well, I'm good. I'm good, Miguel. Thank you for inviting me to your platform here.
Got it. Got it. No, I can hear you. Corco Door Security, I see you. Brenda lives in the casa. I appreciate you, amiga. Let me get a sound check just to make sure that we sound good. Are you talking into a microphone, hermano?
No, I got a headset on.
Okay, okay. Because it sounds kind of poquito bajo.
Okay, I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. So I appreciate all the day oneers that are tuning in right now for the conversation. I can hear you more clear. A ver,
Okay.
a ver.
How's it sound now?
Oh, good, 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 hermano. Good. Gracias, all the
Okay.
day oneers. Gracias to everyone in the members only, the backbone of the community. We're about to get into a conversation right now. It's going to be very, very edifying, to say one. A lot of people don't know their history. Hermano, I'll tell you why. They only know what they were taught.
Mhm.
Isn't that the truth? Sometimes we don't even know we're in a system of education, and here we are, and this is all we taught, and maybe some of us don't have open minds. but not here on Chicano Tube.
Yeah, we're really busy running around trying to keep up with our jobs and our schooling and everything, and it's hard to take that time. And when we do, there's so many options. It's hard to decide and focus on one type of teaching.
Exactly. But gracias, hermano, for joining me. And as for everyone that's in the comment section and asking, yes, I will go ahead and play the trailer one more time. So get this out of the way in the formalities of what the people want to see.
On top of everything else, they want this.
I will go ahead and take him out in the second round.
Just know that you are going to feel what's coming from this side.
You're not going to see much, I'll tell you that.
I'm glad that he knew that that mask was going to fly off. And if I win, I'm keeping the mask, okay?
On top of everything. Okay. You know what? Maybe I should have. Some of those explicits in the end, you have to pay more licensing for those things. People don't know about licensing. Sometimes they ask me, hermano, oh, that oldie in the beginning. They say, how did you get that? It's called licensing. I mean,
Mhm.
let's just get to it. But gracias. I got my hermano David here, Teskatlipoka dance team. Can you give us a little bit about the history of the dance team and where it's based out of?
Okay, well, we're based out of San Jose, California, and in 1987, I began teaching a class here in San Jose, and there was quite a good response from the public. We had a couple families get involved. Like when I say families, I mean like children, the parents, the uncles, like, and also we had some young men coming from Salinas all the way down to San Jose because they wanted to learn danza. And so we started teaching drumming and dancing skills, started attending gatherings. Um, Everyone wanted to learn how to make the natural clothing, the regalia, and the headdresses. And so we
Those are
eventually,
beautiful too. Beautiful headdresses, beautiful pieces.
yeah, so that's, we started, like I said, in the 87, and we continued doing educational programs at schools, doing performances, and also quinceañeras and weddings and different type of family gatherings. And we continued on throughout the years. It's been, well, 87 to now, it's been 27 years now.
Yeah.
Um,
You see how,
yeah,
how civilization is. We're in a modern age right now. With todos nomás están, they're glued to their phones. And
yeah,
everyone's just glued to their phones. So since everyone's watching media, we go straight to where you can promote or put your face out there to as much people as possible. Pues es el internet. And so it's a good thing. So we get to connect. And I'm going to put your information, just to let you know también, at the bajo of the video. That way they'll be able to reach out to you because
okay,
I've seen the Facebook. I don't know if it was the Google page or the IG page or something, pero ahí para que la gente se conecta después. 87, does the familia go back even more in the area here or?
okay. Well, we started in 87, so actually that would make it 37 years now. As far as the familia, my family is from Durango and Guanajuato in Mexico. And I grew up here in San Jose in the barrios like a lot of young people. And it wasn't until I got in my early 20s that I saw some danzantes performing over here at a Leonard Peltier benefit. And I approached them, we talked. Eventually, they invited me to come to their class. And, um, and I did. And I just kept going and I learned to drum and dance. And eventually, I was appointed to be teaching. And so that's how I got into it. My parents were not dancers. Although my father was dancing when he was a teenager with a group of Yaqui dancers down in Santa Barbara area. Um, so I think that part of the process of teaching Aztec dance is to stimulate and encourage more. Uh, I guess I would call it like spreading um, the germination of more groups. So, for example, a number of my students have traveled, moved away to different cities, and they started their own groups. And as a whole, we're kind of like a big community, like a danza family, you might say.
Yeah, my brother David is just a point of contact in the community, and but he's still there and he's helping the people out, man. That's great. Aquí, you already know. I don't know if you ever seen any of my videos, but aquí, of course, Chicanos aquí, we embrace actually too, right? We embrace the Mexicano side, and of course, we're embrace also aquí que nacimos aquí, first generation pochos. That might be the most of my demographic, first generation, and we embrace both. And se agüita a lot of people because well, they haven't learned, that they were taught to understand things a certain way, and that sometimes you have to unteach yourself and
Right.
research for yourself. Y qué rollo. So here we birth critical thinkers. That makes you just pues critically think, ¿verdad? Speaking of uniforms, you said something, hermano. Let me ask you this: a lot of the paintings depict que tenían animal skins over them. They
Yes,
wore
that
animal skins. Could you give a little bit of lo que tú sabes de eso and why? And is that a true depiction?
yeah, it's a true depiction because when we talk about indigenous people in any part of the Americas, right, we're talking about many uh, areas within a tribe or within a society. For example, you have the hunters. Um, so at one time it was said that our Aztec or Mexican ancestors, they traveled from a northern area into the Valley of Mexico, and when they arrived, they were kind of like a nomadic tribe, and so they wore skins, animal skins, and but along with the animal skins, of course, cotton, manta, was something that was grown, harvested, and used extensively throughout our traditions, whether it's clothing, regalia, also using some of the fibers to make baskets and whatnot. But going back to the animal skins, we had within Mexico City or Mexico Tenochtitlan, as it was called at the time, we had warrior societies, one of which would be the Eagle Knight Society, and they would be wearing a lot of regalia that was showing the eagle headdress, eagle feathers, and then there's a Jaguar Society, and they would be wearing the pelts of jaguars and the headdress as well. So yes, rawhides, buckskins, furs from animals, very much used. And even today, many of my friends, they still carry on the tradition of wearing jaguar pelts. And of course, the use of eagle feathers, plumes, plumas is also widely observed and respected still.
And could there have been also a thought of también we wear this because these are animals that are brave, animal that are courageous, or they mean more than that, like
Oh,
to them
yes, yes.
as a
Yes,
people?
definitely. Like when I mentioned the Eagle Knights or the Society of Eagle Warriors, that was like the highest society. Like, look at it, like, put in perspective, like today, you got Navy SEALs, you got Green Berets, you got these different warrior societies. They're modern, but they still are warrior societies just the same. In the old days, the top, guerreros, they were the Eagle Knights. And so dressing up in regalia, clothing that resembles an eagle, that in itself, to earn the right to wear that, would be very empowering. Just like wearing the Jaguar regalia. To get to that level, you had to go through many years of martial arts training back in the old days. So yes, we have martial arts back in the old days, and then nowadays, of course, our youth, they may get involved in danza and also in drumming and being involved like this in cultural ways. But they also might be going to an MMA training or Shotokan, or they might be boxers. I highly respect boxing society, boxing community. I mean, because we all need to have that sense of being able to protect ourselves, protect our family. So yeah, warrior
Such a beautiful
societies,
thing.
wearing belts. Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I want to give a shout out to Danny Corona. I want to give a shout out to, of course, the Salinas, the boxing gym. People know already where they're at. They know everyone that gets a hold of me and asks for fitness. I don't know if you knew, hermano, I have a meeting at the juvenile hall and at the youth
Mm.
center on Sanborn, and it's like a once a month meeting.
Oh,
And
nice.
they're constantly, speaking with them. Something that was I know of God happened the last time I mentioned this. I did a short about this about 2 or 3 shorts ago. I said never in about since I've been going there 2015 have I ever had every guardia in my room where I thought, oh man, what the hell? Like something's gonna pop off or something. I
Mhm.
was like, something's got what it's never happened. And the group I've already had groups of 40, 50, 60, whatever. And when the guardia that was taking me out told me as I was walking out, it's never happened before that all the dorms came to one program.
Oh, that's really great. That's
and it's
really
just
interactive.
because of course, I'm Cristiano.
Okay.
I'm Cristiano. So and let's go ahead and get into that as well. But I want to say one thing about what you were touching on right now. A lot of people didn't know Aztecs was very society was very sophisticated. They had their farming systems. You were mentioning like a political system. They had slaves that could be free on some sort of system. And you could look at it by just like you had mentioned, the city Tenochtitlan's construction. People don't think they had taxes. I heard, I don't know. I heard that they had like tributes, and obviously the instability of all the regions because who else are we gonna fight with but just ourselves?
Okay. Well, when we think about Mexico Tenochtitlan, yes, at its time, at its height, it had, I guess you would say, the high tech. Uh, it was a high tech society with the best observatories for science. Also, aqueducts bringing fresh water into the valley. Also, the agricultural system enabled them to feed over 1 million people. So that tells us right away that they were not relying on going to hunt a deer or rabbits or strictly as hunting to provide food. They were able to create, as you may know, chinapas or floating gardens that it would yield 7 times the amount of produce than a regular type of garden, garden in the soil, the earth would yield annually.
That's what I was just gonna say. Masters of the land.
Yes, yes, and also poetry, universities. I mean, our children back in those days, they would be in school from the time they're like 5 years of age on up. And they had beginning schools, secondary, a high school, and also universities. This is something that is not really seen in many other parts of the Americas, as we know. When I say Americas, I mean, we're talking about Canada, what is now called United States, and then also in South America. At that time, Mexico City was the the high tech
Yeah,
civilization for its time. And yeah, they had in the society, you had the noble people, the family, you had the warrior sect, you had the artist, you had the workers that worked the soil, you had the school teachers. Um, just like nowadays, people had all different jobs and they had a lot of peace. They didn't have jails. They didn't have, you know, places where people were sent to be punished or stuff like that. And of course, there was a lot of debates even now with regards to human sacrifice, because nowadays, we have um, science that enables us to do DNA testing on these locations where supposedly thousands of people were sacrificed annually. And when they try to find the evidence of thousands of people being sacrificed, they can't seem to find it. But then that goes back to who the Europeans were and the letters that they wrote back to Europe. And yeah,
okay,
they
that
rewrote
part right
history.
there.
Yeah,
uh,
they rewrote history.
Sorry to interrupt. You had mentioned the
No,
Europeans, so here we are, right? We always get entertained across this bridge. The Chicanismo. When I think of my indigenous roots, I think of mi abuelita, right? Just
okay, yeah, yeah,
just 4 feet tall and
yeah, yeah,
beautiful tan, almost braids, almost hitting the floor.
yeah. There you
And
go.
those were the golden years. I'm talking 80s, very early 90s. And so I know there's lineage there. Let me ask you this, because s- some people argue that the lineage of their family, does it come from their mother, or does the lineage from your family to your family come from your father's side, David, as far as you understand that?
Well, I've heard that said amongst other groups of people from different parts of the world. They have strict rules in place. But from what I've seen, what I've heard, what I've been told, and what I've lived, on my part anyway, I see it coming from both sides. Although, for example, my mother's family is from Canada as well as from Europe. So she has a lot of German blood in her, and she has some Native American or Native blood from Canada. Okay, so I acknowledge that. But then my father's family coming basically from Durango, and he always said he was Native, and so you know, um, I recognize that. And, nowadays people, they take these tests, ancestry.com. Okay, I don't want to say these names, but you know what I'm saying. They take all these tests, and because now the sample of DNA within the indigenous communities has become more obtainable and more broad. Now
Or
people,
they just
they
want to
find,
swipe, or they just want to swipe your card.
or that too. I mean, well, to a degree, there is that little bit of a percentage or whatever. But yeah, it turned out that our family is straight up from Durango, from the Tepe one, who are closely with the Huicholes and the Taro Umaras and great runners. And
So you had
so,
mentioned nomads at one point, and I think the way I understand that these nomads came from more of the Central American area going north, or did they come more from the south, like you had mentioned, Canada going? You think that it migrated in the beginning, and then came all these civilizations, nomads? Are they coming from the south, or you think they're coming from the north?
well, okay, let me walk it back a little bit and just say this. There always has been people here, okay, like whether we're talking about Alaska, Canada, this area we're at, United States, for sure Mexico, Central America, and South America. So in Mexico, those are already established for thousands of years. Great cities, great, beautiful architectural expressions of whole societies living in a beautiful way. When we talk about the Aztecs and the Mexicas, we're talking about them arriving into the Valley of Mexico, coming from a northern area. So some people say the northern area may have been just northern Mexico, or they say it's from the southwest of the United States, what we call the United States now. So and they also say when these Mexicas or Aztecs arrived into the Valley of Mexico, they were communicating with the local tribes, the local natives there. A lot of the local natives would contract these Aztecs to help them uh, in dealing with other tribes in the area because these Aztecs were great warriors. And so they were being brought in and helping this group with another group. And then they're also marrying into the family of this group and the other group across the lake. Little by little, through marriage and through helping in fighting wars and battles, they became very much established. And then they started growing and developing their city, which we call Mexico Tenochtitlan. Of course, after the Europeans came and all the battles took place, then eventually we were held captive or besieged, occupied for hundreds of years until we finally pushed back and pushed Spain out. We wanted to change our name of our country back to Mexico Tenochtitlan. But yeah, because at that time we were already speaking Spanish, along with our native language, we were already speaking Spanish. We're already having export, import from France, Germany, all around the world coming to our Mexico ports. It was decided, well, let's keep the Spanish language as our commercial or official
Yeah.
business political language.
I want to say the
And
Europeans came and were tripping out and said, "Man, what a sophisticated system! They already got politics
yes,
set up. They already got different classes of life. They got slaves that could be free if they just work a certain terms under certain contracts, and a lot of stuff was going on." Let me talk about prayer. Some people, I did a little poll. Some people wanted me to ask you a couple things as far as prayer goes on indigenous, as far as you know or your understanding is. Just like I'm a Christian, I know I'm on my knees, I know I'm praying to the Lord, I believe the Bible from the front to the back and the back to the front. I'm praying by faith and with the purpose and just wanting his name to be spread, I guess.
okay.
But what do you believe as far as an indigenous culture, how to pray? Who is it? Like religions praying to the same thing? Is there like a length of time of prayer? And some of the people wanted me to ask you about that. Maybe that's something that hasn't been talked about too much.
Okay, well, if we're talking about how our ancestors prayed or how they believed, we had to go by what our elders have been telling us, what they've taught us, and things that we've heard. Um, Again, when we try to find answers to the past, nowadays we pick up our cell phone and we Google stuff, or we actually have books, or we do hear oral traditions. So from what I've heard, um, there's one narrative that I have heard that says our ancestors lived in harmony with nature. This is something I heard from Don Andres Segura, a very well-known elder who passed, and so may he rest in peace. And he taught with his wonderful lectures at Stanford University and all around the Bay Area. He taught that our ancestors lived in harmony with nature, and they saw how nature was, and they wanted to blend in with nature. Now, in a lot of Aztec teachings, we talk about a concept of the beginning, the first energy or life force. And we talk about it in terms of not one, but we say two, because two implies duality. So the word in the Nahuatl or Aztec language, the word for two is ome. That's how we say two, ome. So the word for energy force that causes life and continuation is teo. So they'll say ome teo. And so this is the concept that permeates through all thought about uh, creation and about worshiping or giving thanks and praise. You have our native ancestors living in what people would call nowadays a Garden of Eden. You know, no pollution, everything nice, no prisons, no jail, no cops running up on you or nothing like this.
Oh,
And
oh
so
no,
they're living in this
absolutely
beautiful,
not.
yeah, beautiful society. And now remember, this is also before they had any Spaniards come over here and talk about the church and Christianity. And then, of course, when they finally did meet the Europeans, and the Europeans were talking about Christianity, at the same time, the Europeans were stabbing them and whipping them and burning them up. So, quite a contrast. But as far as I've been taught, it's a thing of not worshiping the nature, but worshiping a creative force that caused everything to come into
Yeah. No, I
existence.
totally understand what you 100%. There's these are just things, that people bring up in regular
Oh yeah,
conversations, and what we say here, people are hearing. They don't learn in books. The books are only going to teach you what the books want to teach you in some kind of system. But we ask the hard questions, and hermano, another hard question someone asked me said, "Do you believe this land, in essence, fue quitado from its native people?"
this land. Are we talking
As
about?
knowing as that's surveyed as the continental United States, 50 states.
Okay,
That
the
before
United.
you're saying nomads, aquí estaba gente already.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I mean the entire. When we say Las Americas, I mean we can extend that all the way to, like I said, all the way to Alaska, Canada, what is known as the U.S., Mexico, Central America, and South America. When we say Las Americas or the New World, we're talking about this whole Western Hemisphere, and it always has been inhabited by people. Um, and all the different areas had hundreds and hundreds of different languages and traditions. And like I keep referring back to architectural wonders, buildings, uh, incredible societies that were very civilized. The word civilized, we always hear Europeans say, were they civilized or not civilized? That's our question too when we look at Europe. Were they civilized or not civilized?
Because they
But
could paint the picture that the raza was like a savage people, uncivilized.
right. So if
Is that
you
true, or is
envision,
that true, or is it just an element that we're used to living in? Because it's a little dangerous sometimes where we're growing up, but we just understand it, and it's just part of the people, I guess.
yeah, like for example, in a quick second, if we envision a world map and we think of the Western Hemisphere. When you look at Canada and all that, envision the French people, soldiers going to Canada, bringing their French language, their traditions. United States, a bunch of English people coming over here, bringing their traditions. In Mexico, Spain, in South America, Portugal, okay. But along with their language and their traditions, they're bringing it with the sword, with these dogs, attack dogs, with diseases. That so yes, all these lands are occupied still. Now, are we feeling, are we as a collective of Rasa feeling angry about it? Well, some of us may be, but I think intelligently, we're just seeing it as what we know what took place. But the flip side of that is the resurgent of our understanding of being a sovereign people, being a strong people. And that's why a lot of our children now are excelling in education. They're excelling in understanding where they come from and where they're at right now, They're focusing on their education, their health, and that's why the reason for um, such things as Aztec dance is for their health. But even like I would say maestro, like what you teach, teaching the boxing. That's because you have young people that want to have a better life and they understand. And here's the Aztec concept that we are three things: we are our mind, our spirit, and our body. If we grow in each area equally, we're going to become a complete nativo. That's what I was told in Mexico from an elder in the state of Guerrero, in the town of Izcatiopan, when I went to go celebrate the 500-year celebration of Cuauhtemoc, who was Montezuma's nephew. So he taught that, yes, we are those three things. So some of us, we study a lot, that's great. Then we pray a lot, we really need that. We need our spiritual health. And then we got to cut back on all the bad food and start eating better food because we got to be responsible for our family unit. We have our abuelos that need our help, our parents. A lot of us have children, we have nephews, and they're looking at us. So I know I
That's
said a
right.
whole lot there, but I'm just trying to cover the spectrum that all these
It's a
lands,
wide spectrum. It's a wide
yeah, well,
spectrum. You're right.
all these lands were already occupied for thousands of years by people that look like you and I and all the chicanitos, the chamaquitos in the
So
barrio.
maybe someone doesn't know what we mean by occupied. Occupation, that means it's somebody's, but by like birthright. O sea, and
Oh, okay.
the land will know who's its own. The land,
Yeah, I
where
mean,
the
yeah,
land
we
will
were
speak for
always
itself. Maybe not a
exactly
title because I correct me if I'm wrong, but even the way they did it and split the land up is actually it's a title system. It's a deed system, and that is something that doesn't sound like it went back to the nomads. I mean, let's just keep that real.
right,
That's a
right.
European concept. The Europeans came and said, you know what, we could do something. The pen is mightier than the sword. We're just going to start taking land, but by ink.
Yeah, well, for example, every time when we speak in terms of the state of California, the state of Nevada, the state of Arizona, when you use the word state, the implication is it was taken by force, by military force. That's what a state is. And so, yeah, kind of like Rome taking over all those lands over there in Europe at one time under Caesar. The United States, it's a bunch of states that were taken by force, like even right here in San Jose. This whole, in after the Treaty of Signing of 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, the guaranteed was that all Mexican citizens could just still live in their homes. They just suddenly one morning they wake up and now they're Americans because the treaty was signed. Their land, their bank account, their schooling, everything was going to remain the same. But
Yeah.
as soon as that happened, there was marauders coming, Caucasian people with guns, just blowing away Mexican families, burying them in their front yards, taking over all the ranchos all throughout California. It was a genocide to some degree, very tragic, very hurtful. But our people are resilient. We're strong. Look at we're here right now. We're talking about the pride we have in our raza, and so yeah. And I
We're
was
talking
catching
about
on what you
boxing fights and warriors and wearing leopard skins that give you
yeah,
energy and
yeah,
put a leopard skin
yeah.
on me and I'm gonna have that energy.
So
Hermano,
so
let me
for
ask you.
example,
Go ahead.
oh, for example, yeah. So our children, like my children, they grew up involved in danza azteca before they were even born. When they were in their mother's womb, I used to drum on my wife's tummy every night and also sing to my sons. So they grew up with this. So when they go out and they're walking about and they're at their job, they wear stuff like this. This is my son's jacket. That's
Authentic. Look at that. Gente cuero. Gente, that's hand
Teskatlipoka.
sewn.
And then also here on the bottom, you will see
That's hand
this is
stitched. Look at that, gente.
this is from Guatemala. The design on the bottom because my sons,
Yeah.
their mother's native from Guatemala, so they honored their mother as well. And
Gente, don't worry, gente. I'll drop the link to how you can get a hold of them in case you have any other questions. That's what we're here to do. So I'm gonna drop that link at the end of this conversation. So let me ask you another a controversial topic people talk
sure,
about. Does then any kind of system, because we're talking about the titles and deeds, that's a written system. And matter of fact, I was just remembering that documentary, The Trail of Tears, a
oh yeah,
couple I think it was weeks ago. And I think I might have just dropped a short, but clipped it off of a longer live and things that happen that aren't really in the history books. But people know because again, the land knows. Does the land owe any type of reparations in any form? Or no? Or it's something to say to talk about, nothing to mention. we mention it, and whether we move forward or not, it can get buried in politics, no matter what, because people love to tell the people, vote for me, and I'll promise you this.
Right, right.
And every 2 years and 4 years, and the raza we do get used like that sometimes.
Well, yeah, the word reparations, when we hear that word, um, a lot of people nowadays, when they hear the word reparations, they think about our beautiful brothers and sisters, our African brothers and sisters, right? But let's take it back to the 1940s. The first reparations actually went to Japanese Americans, and I have a lot of Japanese influence and family members that married into my family, and so I have a somewhat understanding of how their lives were during the 40s. They did a lot of the campesino work. They did a lot of farming and picking and all that. But yeah, after they were interned in those camps, when they came out, they received reparations, and I think a lot of it had to do with their political base. They developed a lobby, a group of people that started getting elected as councilmen, mayors, and whatnot. Eventually, they start getting reparations. So then now we think about the word reparations, and we think about the Africanos, the African Americans, um, who they, it is estimated that since the first contact with Europeans, from that time to now, one way or another, through contact inadvertently or downright just one on one or whatever murder, over 300 million African Americans have been killed since the first contact with Europeans. As far as native people and Mexicans, all included, it's estimated over 100 million have been killed here on this soil. So as far as reparations, yeah, I believe our African brothers need reparations. I believe us Native people, we deserve reparations as well. I don't know anyone that's fighting for that.
Now, of
I
course,
know,
devil's advocate, there could be some people. I'm sorry to interrupt you, hermano.
no, no, I mean, there's some famous people like Ice Cube talking, trying to work out a deal with Trump and all that. Who knows if that's going to happen? But yeah,
But
it's
when you're a
something.
megastar like Ice Cube, pues,
I mean, we don't need the reparation. I mean, we could use it, but we're self-sufficient. We're strong people.
we're
Nothing.
just talking about being people of the land.
Yeah,
We're just
yeah,
talking about that. But on the contrary, on a devil's advocate, some people could say, well, why should they pay now? This generation that wasn't around when all of this madre happened in their great 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 grandfathers' generations. A
yeah.
lot
Well,
of things have happened in all these hundreds of years.
yeah. Well, the big thing that happened, obviously, was a whole different playing field that has children starting out at different, like
Mhm.
a giant race, right? Some children are farther in the race when they start. Other kids are way back here, and they have big hearts and they're running full of passion. But the schooling system that they attend is based on the income or the taxation of that community, rather than just having equal curriculum all around the place with equal supplies. We all know a lot of teachers, and we want to make sure they should all get funded equally. Then our children could have an equal opportunity, not just given free things, but the chance. And I think our people have proven that once they're given the chance, they exceed, over excel. Like when we look at the military, in every single conflict, World War One, World War Two, Korea, Vietnam, um, at at the high ranking of most decorated warriors, Mexicanos and Chicanos. Sure, there's many other people as well. Native Americans also with
Packed
us
all
right
the
there.
buses, huh? We packed all the buses.
I mean, it's that need to have that warrior class. Not that I'm not saying we're violent, we're into war, but como guerreros,
Yeah.
como hombres, hey, we're ready to sign up and defend. If you teach us that this is what you need to do to defend your family, we'll do it.
I want
Nowadays,
to give a shout out to Wayward Son también, mi hermano. He was on the channel a couple videos ago. Just another brother, indigenous, embraces
uh,
native. And that's an
great.
interesting opinion because he was coming through, or his grandfather told him stories about first generation Chicanos that had to sleep under trees and can
Mm,
cross because there was no border. So, everyone's just walking around everywhere. But then obviously they made a border. We know that, ni
right.
modo que no sabemos eso. And, obviously not being able to be in the suburbs and stuff like that. Civil rights obviously changed a lot of stuff because you had mentioned the Black brothers. and
Yes.
they were just, and we're always side by side, even though Cesar Chavez, controversial, would want the border shut down. And they sounded like there were some different ideas, but I always thought, oh, there might be someone in Chavez's ear. But we learn from people's mistakes, and we've evolved, so the movement, it's a new movement now. And most of the people tune in because they're not going to hear what me and you talking about in courses or anything like that. They're going to hear it like on independent media. Shout out to my brother David right here, who's in the house from Teskatlipoka Danza in San Jose, California. Okay, gente, hold on. I'm going to drop his link after, and then you'll be able to get a hold of him if you got any questions. It's been a great conversation. We talked about faith, praying. Matter of fact, I had a little the death whistle, cabrón. The little ones que tienen the little. I had it y se quebró. Oh man, I had to crazy glue it. Ahí lo tengo secando. Something say. Someone brought me from LA those little ones que tienen whistle.
Right.
You really can't buy them here in Salinas in my area. Not those little trinkets that are like more in LA or more by the border. I don't even consider myself Northern California. I actually consider myself, we're right on the equator.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, geographically, they call us the Central Coast for that reason. That's just always what we've known to be, but people put labels. It's all good.
Yeah. I just wanted to quickly mention that myself, growing up in East Side, San Jose, in my teens, coming from I would say in those days, back in the 70s, a typical neighborhood on the East Side, there's a lot of things going on there. There's gang life, there's drive-bys, there's all kinds of stuff like this. And then there's other places where you can go to the dances, the house parties. Used to go to King of Story, do all that low riding there. When King of Story was like the cruising spot of Califas. And when I came to danza, it was a physical thing, a challenge, a musical, artistic thing, challenging as well. And I found myself fully embracing it because it gave me a chance to see something different than what I grew up with, and made a big change in my life for sure. And for the past 40 years, this is my 40th year being involved in Danza Azteca. And as a result, every week I'm doing my burpees and my push-ups and my squats and jumping jacks. It's just a regimen I follow, so I can show respect for my fellow brothers and sisters when we get in the big danza circle, because we want to present beautifully, so it encourages our young children to see something positive as well, something from our ancestors. And yeah,
Absolutely.
if you don't
Absolutely,
mind,
man. I
I'd like
appreciate
to
you.
just
You.
acknowledge one of my buddies here in San Jose. His name is Emil Alpili. He has a wonderful group called Tonaleque, and every year they put on the Mexica Aztec New Year celebration at King and Story. It's happening next month, the weekend of the 15th. Wonderful celebration. And my family, we have a celebration at the Plaza de Cesar Chavez in downtown. Have you been there? The
Oh
Plaza de Cesar
yes,
Chavez?
yes, yes. Not
Okay.
as much. And you know what? People get mad at me. People get mad at me when I tell them. I said, between the low riding and Salinas and San Jose, King and Story always trumped. It always was better. It was
Oh,
always better in
okay.
my
It was
opinion.
just
Cinco de
bigger.
Mayo's, Independence Days, uh, just like in boxing. Okay, all the raza, we followed the boxing dates, right? That's when we celebrated.
Hmm.
That we the boxing dates always were better over there on King and Story, and if people get sad wheat them like, okay, no, I know Salinas, I'll tell you all the roads like the back of my hand. I could do it blindfolded, all the streets. I said, but being honest, over there, the low riding in San Jose nos tenía.
Well, yeah, like I was starting to mention, we're having our celebration on May 18th in at the Plaza de Cesar Chavez. It's a celebration of Quetzalcoatl, and we'll have Aztec dancing going on, and also music and vendors selling jewelry. Like if you've been to a Powwow or Native American celebration, we have vendors, family members, and friends who sell really beautiful jewelry and stuff that's coming from Mexico that has like an Aztec flavor to it. So I'd like to invite you right now personally
No,
on
no, no.
your
Thank you on
program
that.
right
And
here.
then even when we get off this live, hermano, what you want to do is text me those links. Like if anyone
Oh yeah,
has, stuff people
definitely.
can open up. If people nowadays, everyone has a smartphone with the internet connection, and
Yes.
yes, and they're fibbing if they don't. They say,
And
"Oh
you
no,
know,
no," and everyone now, todas las abuelas, they're on Facebook, and so even the
I'm
abuelas
sure
are just
you
stuck watching their phones now.
I'm sure you have some fans as far away as Texas. So to my Texas brothers, my Tejano brothers, I want to say, if you ever find yourself in Houston and you want to see some beautiful Aztec dance, you want to locate the group called Itzcoa Teskatlipoka. That is led by Maribel Garcia, one of my students, and she has a beautiful family-oriented group. They dance at a lot of schools for children, as well as a lot of downtown civic events. So if you're in Houston, you want to check out danza.
Houston, Texas. That's another
Houston,
link I
Texas.
need. Houston,
Yes,
Texas, because
yeah,
we're
this,
going with the boxing events, hermano. We're going all the way from Arizona, New Mexico to Texas.
yeah, why not? Yeah, right.
Yeah, because why? 'Cause it's like we're gonna follow the lowrider circuit. You know, we're gonna because they have
You
already
know,
proven that all that where all the razas at, even up here, Denver, Colorado, other places, right?
oh yeah, you know, like you were mentioning when you were inside a youth center, you said,
Yes,
and
yes. The youth
yes,
meetings I have
yeah. So that's a form of outreach, I imagine. You're talking
a small
bo-
little seed. Yeah.
about boxing, but that's like the base, and then you share with them some of the word.
Yeah, because even in the boxing gym, sometimes they come in off the streets and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
it's good to just open up. And I hate to see 3 or 4 of them walking at 9:30 at night, 10 o'clock at
Hmm.
night. They want to start walking down streets that, you know what? No, I'm gonna take you.
Yeah, with that
Trying to do some
mentorship,
good like that.
that mentorship is so important,
Yeah.
and
That's why only the positive happens to me. You reap what you sow. That's all I know is that.
there
But
you
in
go.
real life, maybe the internet is something else. Sometimes we don't always agree or something like that, but that's the internet. But in real life, like you had said, the land knows the people that's theirs, just like the communities know the people that are theirs in real life. And
So let me ask you something. Have you worked with youth, teaching them in your gym, boxing and stuff, and then years and years go by, then you see them again, and they come up to you and they're like, "Hey, it's me," and you see them, and you're like, "Wow, now you're a big old man," and you
yeah,
remember the time
I
you
do.
invested in them. Yeah.
I do, and it wasn't as a boxing coach. That was actually as a minister. People didn't know I
Okay.
was actually an ordained minister,
All
and for
right.
several years traveled with the church and led meetings and held meetings and helped meetings and just kind of did that for a couple years, just laying some seed down. That way, God was just blessing the family and doing. If I was doing what I had to do, He was going to bless the family. I knew that, and He was. God is good, and and that's when I started working with the youngsters. And then when YouTube came along, I'm like, oh, it's a continuation of that work.
Right. Right.
I
Yeah, that's
thought because the
something.
youngsters now they all have tablets. It's not the same juvenile hall of the 80s.
Okay. All right. Yeah, the mentoring of our youth is so important, and I applaud all these guerreras, these strong women that are working with young girls, young teenage girls, and but I'm talking with you, sir, right now, and so what the work that you're sharing with these young men in your gym over there, I haven't been there, but I will come. I will be
Thank you.
coming to visit, and I know you have a big impact on these young men because you sound like a very well-rounded man that has many
Yeah.
experiences under your belt. They can see that. They can sense that. And
Y ahí,
so,
ahí siempre tengo mi familia with me. So if they see you as
okay,
a family, then they see you as a family man. I take my
yeah,
familia with me, and they're in all ages too, high schools and adults and all the same years around the youngsters that I'm around. So Salinas, I don't know if you knew this, was just like you had mentioned, even of indigenous tribes or just large families.
okay,
Large family. There was a lot of large families, and if you weren't of one, you knew of one or married into one or something like that. That's how I remember always Salinas was just large. So everyone somehow or another knew it, each other like that. But hermano, I want to give the last words over to you. I want to thank you for coming on, and not just that, for your help also in the content creator series of fighting Tony versus stories that's happening, you guys. When you think danza, just think mi hermano right here. And yes, I'll drop the links. As some of you guys were commenting some things, he had mentioned those things about on the mother's lineage or the father's lineage. He has said you embrace both because you're both.
that is true. Unless you come from a clan, a particular tribe or nation, indigenous nation that has set in place rules, then if you're part of that clan, then you're going to go with that. But when it comes to Mexica and Aztec, I see that we do honor both of our parents, and yeah, because you might have a family from one area of Mexico and another family, your other side is from the south or the east, and linguistically it might be different. But I mean, we really come from these both our parents, our DNA.
Because people will say, one side, I think they want to see like one side as dominant and use that to split hairs. But let's move on from that.
Well, that sounds like you're talking about a family. Like, put it this way: like in my family, I'm the darkest complected one, and my siblings they're lighter complected. So sometimes within the family, you have some children looking more like the pops or the mom, and that
Exactly.
sometimes, yeah, that happens. But DNA would tell you, yeah, we're all brothers and
I
sisters.
want to someone wanted me to ask you, what do you think of, like, there's different perspectives and different thinking now. That do you think then anyone that has indigenous blood, that if you have that blood you should assimilate to the native culture at all, or in some ways or no ways, or stay true to your roots or embrace it all in the direction that it's going now? What do you think about that?
Well, I think that actually it is up to each individual. Some people they spend their whole life not involved in their indigenous background, their indigenous families' traditions, and when they get past 30, for some reason, it's a epiphany that they're like, oh, now I got to give into my culture, and that's fine. Other people, they grew up with it and they always practice it. So should we or should we not? I really think it's innately in your blood. When you hear the drum, and you smell some of that wonderful tree sap resin, the copal burning, it's very fragrant. When you smell that and you hear the drum, it might just register in you in a way that's going to cause you to come up and, say hello, just be friendly. And you might find yourself attending a class, a group gathering, and you might find yourself just really into it.
Now
So, should we?
remind me to remind you about bringing that, okay? Las ramas para quemar.
Okay, yeah, I recommend that everybody, if like this one friend of mine, he passed away, a native man named Stan, may he rest in peace. He told me, hey, you know what? I always tell this is what he said. When I meet people and they say they're part native, he says, I always say, if you have this much native in you, stand up and be counted. In some way, shape, or form. Learn how to say hi in your language. Learn how to say thank you in your language, because those, I mean, are universal. When you tell someone thank you and hello, in a
So
friendly with a
on my
friendly
dad's
spirit,
side, that's right.
yeah.
Robert C. My dad's side is from Michoacan, and on my mom's
Uh-huh.
side is Jalisco, but my mom was güera with like green eyes.
Okay, yeah. So we have some European blood, and that's fine.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
fine.
And and we love it. We embrace it. And so and other people know that I'm doing like a lot of cover ups. I just kind of blacken stuff out, and people are like, "Ay, ahí nomás quieres just black out until you disappear. ¿Qué vas a hacer?" And I'm like, well, I mean, some people is okay and some people don't. And I said, I'm doing it like that. And I put on this side Quetzalcoatl. And so I'm going to do an Aztec side here. And on the other side, I put a conquistador's helmet. And you should
Oh,
have seen
interesting.
yeah, it's interesting. So the comments said like this: why am I putting colonizers on my chest?
Yeah. Well, you know what? One assumption I can make in a very positive way. Let me express this,
And I
Senor.
did YouTube shorts and everything about it. Se los
Yeah.
enseñé.
Well, so check. One thing that I think your viewers are understand is like you and me are talking right now, and you and I, we're not in our 20s or our 30s. We're older gentlemen, and when we grew up, when we first started seeing a lot of cultura being expressed on murales here, it was always you had the indígena and you had the conquistador. We always saw that in murals. That's what we grew up with, and then the fact that we know we know that we have some European blood in us. That explains, in many reasons why. Probably why you
Exactly.
have those tatuajes, because it's a reflection of your upbringing. We grew up seeing those murals,
Well,
and it's also
yo no tenía ni nothing ni dibujos. It was pretty much all something I just had to just start wiping out and just, blacking out. But to me, I didn't think about it until I started seeing como lo hacen. Yeah, and they look like spatulas. They're like torture devices. And I'm like, pues, they do it really fast. because they try to just fill it in really fast since you want to do like a
Uh-huh.
large area and stuff like that. But I put the Spanish helmet, and I said, well, yeah, because I'm not gonna hide it, because then that I wouldn't be true to myself.
Okay, well,
If
yeah,
I try to hide it, and so and how can I, knowing que me parezco más olive and stuff like that. But if I look at my grandmothers, great grandmothers, beautiful Indian women.
yeah, tatuajes, como tú sabes, are very personal. They
Yeah.
reflect,
In the
and
moment kind of
so
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, whatever you put, whatever I put, it's always correct. It's kind of like every school. Every school is correct in how they teach. Like within dancer groups, how I share my teachings of drumming and dancing. It's correct in my school. My buddy, his school, it's a little different, but it's beautiful because it is different. And that way, our young people they find a place that resonates with them, and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go here because I feel something here," or "I'm gonna go to this other place." I'm sure it's like that with gyms as well, right? With boxing styles and boxing schools, they
Oh yeah.
resonate with the coach, the teacher, and also the style. I would imagine, I don't know, but you tell me if this is true that some schools have their style of boxing may be more reflective of like Mexico City versus like PAL or like Olympic boxing out of the U.S. Tell me
Yeah.
about that. I'm
So
curious. I want to take
I'll let
advantage
you
of
know.
having
It's
you.
it's a, yeah. Let me let you know some boxing right here. And
Okay.
so anyone that falls under amateur boxing, anyone that's a pro, ever Hall of Famer, legendary. We're talking to Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather's, Muhammad Ali's, Joe Lewis's, you name them, all had a amateur box under one umbrella. It's USA. So
Okay.
USA then has its separate LBCs, and those are local boxing commissions, which are like regions. And then each single gym that's sanctioned has its own events, and that's just how it multiplies. We just keep, bringing up just new youngsters every single year. Lions, just trying to tear each other apart. Lions, the most youngest lions, wearing Aztec lion skins. Real quick, oh no, I'm gonna forget this. I'm gonna forget this if I don't ask you right now. Where
Okay.
did the name where did the name Aztecs come from? The people didn't call themselves that.
Okay. There is a teaching that our ancestors came from a northern area that was called Aztlan. Aztlan. So after the contact with the Spaniards, some people say after that contact that it may have been the Spaniards that said, "Well, you're from Aztlan originally, you're Aztecas." But however, there is also teaching in our native communities now from Mexico saying, no, our people did refer to themselves also as Aztecas or Aztec. So,
Okay, yeah, because my understanding was this. This is a gente that's from the Mexica, that's that central part. And if you look at the geography, my dad being Michoacan and Jalisco, they connect those two
oh,
states, so they're really close. So they came from that central part, and no matter what, they're all the way down, going to like Central America and South America. Like you said, there was always a people. This was always their land, but maybe nomads. You said to the north. If they were in the Canadian continent, for sure they were in the United States continent.
well, another thing, this goes into why a lot of raza gets involved with Danza Azteca. Now, let's say we have some family from way far southern Mexico, right? They may be from Merida, right? And
Right.
they may be all the
Yeah.
way up here, like you said, like a Jalisco. During the time when the Aztecs, when they had Tenochtitlan, Mexico Tenochtitlan, they had their language and their culture, their music, their art was spread all throughout Mexico. Okay, and they would be doing trade, like people from the south may be sending quetzal feathers up to Mexico City in exchange for some items that they had in Mexico City. They kept these transactions recorded on tree bark paper we called amat. It's tree bark paper. They actually had delivery and runners transporting uh, porters transporting these goods back and forth, and they kept books. Nowadays we call them invoices. I have a friend that has a whole booklet of old actual invoices, images of it, photographs, which tells you how they did their trade system. My point to this is simply this: the Aztec culture was in communication with all parts of Mexico. Although every part of Mexico had their own language, their own tradition, their own name of their particular group of natives, like we might say tribes nowadays or community. They had their own different, Tarahumaras. You had Mayos. You had all these different natives, but they had a relation with the Mexica or the Aztecs. So that's why a lot of people nowadays, regardless of where they are in Mexico, they may practice their own native tradition in their pueblo, but they also may be doing danza azteca because it's something very vibrant and it's also very inclusive. And back in the day, there was a lot of communication all throughout
What
Mexico.
about when people ask about native languages? Native languages. Well, why speak Spanish? That's not our native language. And I say,
Right,
pues, I was just raised in the barrio, and we spoke. Well, my parents are from Mexico, so
right,
obviously I'm first generation. I'm a true pocho. First
right. Well,
generation Chicano. I'm the definition of a Chicano. And but why speak that? Well, I was like, pues, because I didn't grow up with friends speaking Nahua.
yeah. Well, if we're not, we speak the language we're brought up with, right? In our case, you and I, we're raised here, so we speak English and Spanish. And now, as an adult, I learn a little bit and a little bit more of the Nahuatl language. And so, English and Spanish. Let's just say this: English and Spanish and French and Portuguese. These languages that are here in the Western Hemisphere, we can look at them simply as tools. We need to use them as tools to communicate, to work, do our taxes, and do all this stuff, business, negocios. But I'll tell you what, when you do say some words in the Nahuatl language, when those words roll across your vocal cords, I really believe that your indigenous spirit innately celebrates. It says, wow, it feels good to have these words coming across my vocal cords, you know? Like, for example, when we
Yeah,
say hello,
yeah.
there's different ways to say hello. But we can say it like this. We can say, piyali. Let me hear you say, try it. Piyali.
Yale.
There you go. And when you want to say goodbye, you can say, tota,
Oh yeah.
tota.
No, I was gonna say it right. I needed to make sure because this is my canal. I was like, I make sure I say Teskatlipoka. I better say it with an accent, like it's native. Si no me van a decir, este habla medio mocho.
Okay, the second to the last syllable is where you put the stress. So, Teskatlipoka. There you go. Perfect.
Can you give a description of that before we go on the name? What does it mean and how it came to
Okay,
be? One more time.
okay. The first part, okay, the entire word is Teskatlipoka. Okay, the first part, Teska, that's a short version of saying Teskatl. Teskatl. A Tescat is a mirror, like un espejo, okay, made out of obsidian, polished rock, polished obsidian, really polished. You can see a reflection, right? So Teskatl is a mirror. Tli means yours, like yours, algo que es tuyo. Y poca is short for popocat. Popocat is smoke or smoldering. So what could this mean? A mirror, your mirror that smokes? Okay, what it's referring to is your dreams. Okay, your dreams during your nocturnal experience of life when you're sleeping, which is one third of your life. Your dreams, as I've heard it, your positive dreams in your subconscious mind, how they affect your conscious day in a positive way. So Tezcatlipoca means your smoking mirror or your subconscious mind that affects you in a positive way. I know
Man,
it's pretty heavy. There's a whole lot in
I
there, right?
that's heavy. I'm gonna listen to the replay and rewind it, and I'm gonna listen to that last 20 seconds because that's like a clip by itself. No, gracias, hermano, for that, and I can't wait en persona a mirarte. Here, the gente are gonna know how we're gonna move things going forward with the compañías, with providing the people some entertainment. But yeah, one thing I want to mention too, you were talking about a young man going to another place trading. I don't know if you said ostrich feathers or wings or something, and
Well, I was saying,
I commented there. I said I need some of those wings.
well, yeah, I was talking about the trade in the old days with the quetzal feathers from the southern Mexico coming up north, bringing them up here to Mexico City. And
But maybe they're gonna see me and they say like este Spaniard, este español acá no le vamos a vender nada. No, I'm just
You,
kidding.
like my friend, the one that passed away, this older gentleman, like he said, even if we're one tenth of whatever the sangre indigena that we have,
Exactly, my
that we should
boy.
stand up and be counted. We should be proud of who we are in general. Any part of the world we're from. But when we're talking about living in the Americas, and we come from this bloodline in a positive sharing kind of way, we should be very proud. If your neighbor says, "Hey, are you a Mexican? Are you part native?" Then you should say, "Yeah, I am." And be proud and share with them. They might tell you they're from Ireland and they speak Gaelic, and all of a sudden you lay some Nahuatl on them. They're like, "Wow, we're both speaking our ancestral
Exactly.
languages."
Beautiful, beautiful things. Yeah, it's also always embracing on the positive, of course. And then I see
Yeah,
people even connecting too, because I tell them in the comment section, I said, hey, you guys should also be connecting, like drop your own IG links or drop anything that you can copy and paste right there in the comment section. And then just be connecting. And that's how we do it. If anyone got questions, you always ask follow-up questions. I'll drop the links to my brother David right here, hermano. Gracias. I appreciate your time again. And those links that you had mentioned on anything, me los mandas. That way I could
sí,
just copy
claro.
and paste them, por favor. Last words to the gente.
I would like to highly encourage all parents, if you have children, that number one, you get really involved in their schooling, maybe do school visits to meet their teachers, because these teachers do have a powerful impact on your children, on their insight, how they feel about themselves. And then also parents, get your children involved in some physical activities, because nowadays that's one of the biggest challenges. Our children they're learning a lot of stuff in school and also on their phones, but sometimes that phone could be a problem. So we need to get our kids out there and take them hiking, take them camping, bring them to take them to the gym so they can learn how to box, take them to a dance class, they learn how to drum and dance. They need to get involved with some physicality. Remember, we are three things. We are mind, spirit, and body. We need to keep praying, we need to keep studying, and we need to keep working out and eating good food and have healthy families.
I appreciate you. Gracias, mi hermano David. And we're out.